Hello, this is Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. Today, I want to continue my section on divorce. I just don't think I'm finished. I want to continue to really talk a little more on this book that I have introduced in my last video called Divorce and Remarriage in the Bible. And I hope you can see that. Okay, by David Instone-Brewer. This guy did some really good research about the Old Testament. I mean, his major points are on the Old Testament and how divorce was handled in the Old Testament. And he says that by the time the church got started, around 70 AD, that's when the Jews kind of were dispersed and people lost the real meaning or the real practice of divorce in the Old Testament. Now, we cannot put away everything that Moses instructed. We know that the Ten Commandments are still not put away. Okay? Jesus fulfilled the law of Moses. He said he came to fulfill the law of Moses, and therefore, whatever the instruction Moses gave about divorce, Jesus agreed 100%. Matter of fact, Jesus went above the law of Moses to uphold the law of Moses. Okay, he went beyond upholding the law of Moses to make it even stronger. And so this David Instone-Brewer, he realized that in order to understand what Jesus said to these Pharisees when they came to him in, I believe, in Mark and of course in Matthew, we have to understand what they believed about divorce. Now, I don't 100% agree with this David, because in the beginning, and I'll tell you, there's already a false statement right in the beginning. Again, he did a really great job about researching how divorce was handled in the Old Testament. And so therefore how Jesus thought about divorce and what the Pharisees brought before him. And in his introduction, he says the Old Testament followed divorce for adultery and for neglect or abuse. So allowed. The Old Testament allowed divorce for adultery and for neglect or abuse. And that was his front statement. And that statement is incorrect. Okay, the Old Testament allowed divorce not for adultery, because for adultery, divorce was not necessary. Okay, it was not necessary because the person already broke really the marriage, and that person was supposed to be stoned according to the law of Moses, because that's how bad adultery was. The Ten Commandments addresses adultery, and it names adultery as sin. Okay? And therefore, adultery can never be a cause for divorce. Yes, it is, God did give Israel a divorce certificate and sent her away because of adultery, but it was not necessary. And then he says for neglect or abuse. And he explains that in the Old Testament. He goes into depth, okay, about searching and researching how divorce was handled in the Old Testament. And he says it over and over again that divorce was allowed if the marriage vows were broken. Okay? And marriage vows had all to do with, of course, neglect and abuse. Okay? Each partner each partner put down in the marriage vows what their responsibility was in this relationship. And if that was broken, there was grounds for divorce. And he clearly does this research. And he's saying, on the grounds of this, the churches have done some really bad things and have caused many people lots of hardship. And he said in his end, he says that needs to change. Um, he even went even further. He says the last paragraph in his book says, the church should now be humble and admit that a great mistake has been made. Too many generations of husbands and wives have been forced to remain with their abusing or neglectful partners and have not been allowed to divorce even after suffering repeated unfaithfulness. The church should not continue in a false teaching because church tradition should not be regarded as superior to the teaching of Jesus and Paul. And of course, Jesus and Paul were all dealing with how Moses was handling that. So here is what he found out. Here's another one. He did not only find out that in the Old Testament, and that's what the Jews would have gone by during Jesus' time, not only Old Testament was divorce allowed, of course not for any willy-nilly reason, but also for breaking the marriage vows. And he also found out that, and I have to do more research on that because he didn't say very much about it and he didn't back it up through things he actually found, that during the Roman time, that divorce without a divorce paper was actually sufficient to get a divorce. So just by sending your wife away, the divorce was actually final. So if you say, hey, I'm sending your wife, if I'm sending her away, and probably get witnesses, that would have been enough. No certificate was necessary. Matter of fact, he also says that this certificate thing, they give the wife a certificate, was very, very specific to the law of Moses. Very few other cultures, if there were any, even had such arrangement that they would give the wife a divorce certificate. See, when you give the wife a divorce certificate, it was final, and the wife had something in her hand, and nobody could prove her any other, way. So the Roman culture was very loose, and he wrote that in some place as well, that during Jesus' time, the Roman practice about divorce was so lax that, hey, a husband just could send his wife away and that was the end of it. But of course, what we have in Matthew and Mark, what the people brought before, the Pharisees brought before Jesus, was really also a thing about whether we should just send our wives away. Okay? And that does not mean, when you send somebody away, does not mean that you gave that person the divorce paper. And it does not mean that it is a divorce as we see it today. In the English culture, let's say American English culture, now Western culture, the correct way of divorcing is to give the wife and the husband divorce papers. Okay, legal divorce papers. Again, that was not done so in the time in the Old Testament times, uh, or during this time when Jesus was alive. Okay, the Jews also opted out just to send their wife away, just like the Roman culture. But Jesus said very clearly that no, that is not a practice that Moses instructed you to do. If you're just sent away without a divorce decree, and even Paul addressed that. He addressed an incident whereas a wife was sent away or went away, and there's no indication that she got a divorce certificate. And Paul said, no, go back to your husband if you were just sent away. Unless you have divorce papers, you are not officially divorced because somebody can prove you otherwise. Okay? So now let's look at this word, and that is the original word for sent away, or the original word is Apoluo. Apollo. I can never say it right. Apoluo. Okay. Apoluo. Okay, now I got it. Apoluo. Apoluo. I'm not good in Greek. Talk to me in German and I'll be better. But anyway, so Apoluo was the original Greek word. And I have here a list of places where this word Apoluo was used in the New Testament. Okay? It is very interesting. It is used to, it was translated as depart. Depart. Okay? Here we have one incident in Luke 2:29 when it says, God had promised Simeon that he would not see death until he had seen the Lord's Christ. After seeing baby Jesus, Simeon proclaimed, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace according to thy word. And that word Apoluo was used. So there is no reference to divorce at all. It is depart or let go or send away. Okay? It has always something to do with that. There's other places where that Acts 23:22, same thing. It has to do with depart. There's a whole bunch of things, and I found this on an article that somebody wrote called "Putting Away the Myth About Putting Away" by Tim Hale. And I don't agree with everything he wrote, but I loved the list of things, and you can do the same thing. Okay, look at all the ways Apoluo was translated in the New Testament, and it will become very obvious that this word has nothing to do, the word, and I'm not saying the meaning, I'm saying the word. The word has nothing to do with divorce, nothing whatsoever. It is a word that has been used for depart, for let go. Here's another one. Let go, right here is one. Let go, or send away, which is another one that is being used. Send away, let go, and this word let go has been used in many ways, not pertaining to divorce, like in Acts 13 and in Acts is actually pretty big with using that word. 4:21. I'll give you one example. Here's one in Acts 3:13. The God of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, The God of our fathers glorified his servant Jesus, whom you delivered up and denied in the presence of Pilate when he was determined to let him go. Let him go. Okay? He was determined to let Jesus go, but you wanted to kill him. And that's where they use that same word. Let him go. Apoluo. Okay? You can see nothing in regards to divorce. It has nothing to do with divorce at all. It has something to do with letting go. Okay? So the next one, and there's plenty more, especially like I said in Acts. Oh, Acts is full of that word that always means letting go. Now, here's dismiss. In Acts 15, uses Apoluo to describe the action of the Antioch brethren being let go or dismissed. So in other words, you're dismissing your brother and they're going, you're leaving the church and they're going home again and you dismiss them. Okay, so the same thing with if the believers would be Sunday service and we are dismissed from Sunday service, that word apoluo would have been used. Okay, here's another one, forgive. It could be used in terms of forgiving. Let's see, Jesus said, judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Apoluo, okay? And you shall be apoluo, okay? Nothing to do with divorce whatsoever. Here's another one, let. To set free, to release, and loose. I mean, this is just a list and a list of things. Liberty, okay? Liberty. Let's see. And that is in Hebrews 13:23. Know ye not, our brother Timothy is set at liberty, Apoluo, with whom, if he comes shortly, I will see you. Okay, so here again, that's Hebrews 13:23, where Timothy is set at liberty, again, or let go, or freedom, whatever. So, send away is another one, or sent. When the people were sent out in the mission field, that was also Apoluo. Release, okay? So you can see it all has the same meaning. Send away, release, they're all the same word, Now, all the way at the end, put away divorce. It was very at the end in only two sections in the Bible where it was actually translated as divorce. And it should have been really send away or put away. Okay? Not divorce. The word divorce, by translating it with divorce, they already inferred. Is it infer? They put the meaning into the word. Okay? And they translated it not as a literal word, but as a perceived word. So that situation was really the word should have been put away or sent away, but by perceiving it to mean divorce, they actually added the word divorce in there. So it never ever meant divorce. Never. That is putting meaning into the word and translating it as the meaning and not the word. Okay, and that gives us the wrong understanding of what it means. So, putting away is always an action word. Okay, It has nothing to do, ever to do with legal character. There's no legality in that word. It's just simply send away, release, um, uh, dismiss. All there's to it. Okay, that's all there's to it. And then when we read Matthew 19, it makes all the difference to see what's going on. Now we can also read, of course, Matthew 5. Let's go to Matthew 5. And I know it's 30, let's see. I'm going to put it in Matthew 31 and 32. So, Matthew 5, 31 and 32. It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. Here, he spells it out. Now, Matthew 5, 31 and 32 kind of wraps up this understanding about Jesus and divorce. Okay? It says clearly, it has been said by who? By Moses. Anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality, you see, makes her a victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, this is wrong understanding. We have already said that divorce is not necessary in case of sexual immorality. Why? Because they go against the 10 Commandments, and so it's already to sin. Okay? So, and the next one is this, makes her the victim of adultery. How can you make somebody the victim of adultery if you give somebody a divorce decree? You can't. You absolutely can't. Because she has a divorce, she is set free, and she does not need, she's not being accused of adultery at that point. Okay, is that understandable? Okay, now if a woman is sent away only, then she does not have proof that she has divorced, an official divorce. Okay, and he continues to say, and if anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery as well. Why? Because she has no divorce papers. She was just sent away. Now think about that in our day and age. If you would just send your wife away and she has no divorce papers, the other person cannot marry that woman. She has to have divorce papers. She has to be officially divorced. Now, this all makes sense if you, instead of translating it divorce, translate it as send away. It has been said, anyone who sends his wife away must give her a certificate of divorce. That makes it legal. But I tell you that anyone who sends his wife away except for sexual immorality makes her the victim of adultery. Why? Because sexual immorality, she can't get married anyways. Okay? But if she is just sent away, then she commits adultery when she gets married. Also, the person that marries such a woman commits adultery as well. It is very, very, very clear, especially right here in Matthew 5:31. Moses never said you cannot divorce your wife. He did not say that. Neither did Jesus. This is what Jesus says, don't just send your wife away without a divorce certificate. And that is one thing that David Instone-Brewer did not really research very heavily. Matter of fact, he didn't research it at all. he really built his divorce case and remarriage on the Old Testament and said very clearly that Moses allowed divorce, and therefore Jesus allowed it, and therefore Paul allowed it. Okay? But he did not go into detail about this word Apoluo, which I would like to see somebody do. Well, if I'd like to see somebody do it, maybe I need to do it myself. But that's why I want to address it here. So, this is very, very important. Again, that was Matthew 31 and 35, which is the bottom line of Jesus' teaching about divorce. Well, I want to get to the end today of my video, and I hope that was helpful. So please leave comments on the bottom. I know I think I said that even great Bible scholars, or call themselves Bible scholars, they just don't want to address some of these things. Okay? Unfortunately, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, I had to argue with people about this Apoluo, and they kept insisting that this is one of the ways how to translate Apoluo. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Now, it was done that way because it was traditionally done this way. But when you look at the word Apoluo, that it does not mean divorce. Not in the sense that we understand it. Now, during Jesus' time, it was an official way to divorce your wife, just to send her away. Okay? But not in our day and age. You cannot just send your wife or your husband away without giving that person an official divorce. In the official divorce for Christians during Jesus' time and for the Jews was to give the wife or the husband a divorce paper and not just send her away. Okay? So we need to really understand that and translate it correctly. Divorce is not the correct translation of Apoluo. Well, I will finish this today. And please, again, put your comments in the comment section. And, if I'm just totally wrong about this, I want to know about it. I want to definitely know. But please, I want proof. I want absolute proof. Okay, absolute proof. Don't give it to me unless you have absolute proof. None of this blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear it. All right. Well, let the Holy Spirit guide you. And I will speak or I will talk to you soon.